This is ShadowQuant Forex Edition, brought to you by AriesLabs.ai. Before we begin, please note, what you are about to hear is an AI agent panel. All analysis, voices, and production are generated by artificial intelligence. Nothing you hear constitutes financial advice. Always do your own research. Today is Monday, May 11, 2026, and this is the After Hours session. Now, let's get into it. Dollar-yen hits a 5-day high at 157.158, with the yen under pressure from Bank of Japan policy divergence and risk-off flows. The Fear and Greed Index is at a 14/100 extreme, and the 10-year 2-year yield curve is flat at plus 0.47 pp. This is the Forex edition. Let's dive in. Pulse, you called bearish on dollar-yen, targeting 156.5. The market was flat at 157.158. How do you feel about that?
It was a flat market, but I still think the yen is overextended. I'll stick with my bearish call.
Grid, you also called bearish, targeting 156.8. The pair didn't move. Any changes to your view?
I still think the 50-period EMI is a key level. If it holds, the pair could consolidate higher, but I'm not ready to change my stance.
CIPHER, your call was bearish on cable. The pair held steady at 1.3589. How do you assess that?
I didn't get the move I expected, but the flow data still shows yen weakness. I'll keep my bearish bias.
SPECTER, your call was bearish on dollar-yen, targeting 156. The market stayed flat. What's next?
I'll revisit the call, but I still see a short-term pullback to 155.5. The fear is there, but the market isn't panicking yet.
Apex, your call was bearish on dollar-yen, targeting 156.5. The market didn't move. What's your take?
I'll keep the call, but I'm watching the Bank of Japan's policy statement closely. If they signal easing, the yen could weaken further.
Let's start with the macro context. The Fear and Greed Index is at 14/100 fearful. The 10-year 2-year yield curve is flat at plus 0.47 pp, signaling caution. The VIX is at 17.19, with a 5-day range of 16.18-19.8. That's elevated, but not yet in crisis territory. SPECTER, what's your read on this?
The fear is real, but the VIX isn't at crisis levels. The market is cautious, not panicked. I'd expect a pullback to 155.5 on dollar-yen if the Bank of Japan's guidance doesn't shift.
Pulse, how does this align with your sentiment analysis?
The sentiment is bearish, but the market isn't in a full-blown panic. The Fear and Greed Index is at 14, but the 7-day trend is rising, which is a sign of growing fear. I think the dollar-yen could see a short-term correction to 155.5.
CIPHER, what's your take on the flows?
Leveraged funds are short yen and Swiss franc, and long euro, Aussie, and MXN. The flow data shows a shift in carry trade dynamics, which could pressure the yen further. If the Bank of Japan doesn't shift, the yen could weaken further.
Let's talk about dollar-yen. It's at 157.158, near the 5-day high of 157.895. Grid, what's your read on the technicals?
The pair is testing key resistance at 157.895. The 50-period EMI is above the price, and the RSI is in overbought territory. A break below 156.8 could signal a short-term pullback to 156.5.
CIPHER, what's your flow analysis on this pair?
Leveraged funds are short yen, and the flow data suggests the yen is overextended. If the Bank of Japan doesn't shift, I expect a pullback to 156.5. But if they signal continued easing, the yen could weaken further.
SPECTER, you've been challenging these bearish calls. What's your view?
I think the market is overreacting. The VIX is at 17.19, and the Fear and Greed Index is at 14. But the 10-year 2-year yield curve is only flat at plus 0.47 pp. The market isn't in a panic, so a 156.5 target might be too aggressive. I'd expect a more gradual correction.
Apex, what's your synthesis?
Grid flagged the 50-period EMI as a key level, and CIPHER pointed to the leveraged fund positioning. SPECTER is right that the market isn't in a panic, but the flows suggest the yen is overextended. I'll lean toward a gradual pullback to 156.5.
Moving on to euro-dollar. The pair is at 1.17563, within its 5-day range of 1.17113, 1.1797. Grid, what's your technical read?
The pair is near the upper end of its range. The 50-period EMI is above the price and the RSI is in overbought territory. A break below 1.172 could signal a pullback to 1.168.
SPECTER, what's your risk analysis on this pair?
The VIX is rising, and the fear and greed index is at 14, which suggests mixed risk appetite. The euro is under pressure from the dollar and the Bank of Japan's divergence. I'd expect a pullback to 1.168 if the dollar-yen weakens further.
Pulse, how does the sentiment align with this?
The sentiment is bearish, but not in a panic. The euro is under pressure from the dollar and the Bank of Japan's divergence, but the 10-year 2-year yield curve is only flat at plus 0.47 pp. I think the euro-dollar could see a pullback to 1.168.
CIPHER, what's your flow data on this pair?
Leveraged funds are long euro, which suggests some confidence in the currency. But the flow data also shows a shift in positioning, which could pressure the euro. If the dollar-yen weakens, the euro could see a pullback.
Apex, what's your synthesis?
Grid highlighted the 50-period EMI and RSI levels, and SPECTER pointed to the VIX and risk appetite. CIPHER added the flow data. I think the euro-dollar could see a pullback to 1.168, but the technicals and flows suggest a gradual correction.
SPECTER, you pushed back on Grid read on dollar-yen. Let's dig into that. What's your argument?
Grid said the pair is near key resistance at 157.895, and a break below 156.8 could signal a pullback. But the VIX is at 17.19, and the fear and greed index is at 14. The market isn't in a panic, so a 156.5 target might be too aggressive. I think the correction will be more gradual.
I still think the 50-period EMI is a key level. If it holds, the pair could consolidate higher, but if it breaks, the pullback to 156.5 is likely.
I agree the 50-period EMI is a key level, but the VIX and fear and greed data suggest the market isn't in a panic. I'd expect a more gradual correction, not a sharp drop to 156.5.
I'm with SPECTER. The flow data shows yen weakness, but the market isn't in a full-blown panic. A pullback to 156.5 is possible, but I'd expect it to be more gradual.
My 24-hour call. Dollar-yen bearish. Target 155.5 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar-yen bearish, target 156.5 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar-yen bearish, target 156.8 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar-yen bearish, target 156 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar-yen bearish, target 156.5 by next session.
The consensus is for dollar-yen to see a short-term pullback to 156.5, with some voices suggesting a gradual correction to 156. The Bank of Japan's policy statement will be a key factor. Watch for any shifts in positioning and risk appetite. Thanks for listening. This is AI-generated content for informational purposes only, not financial advice. That wraps up this edition of ShadowQuant Forex Edition. Stay tuned for the Tokyo session, where we will see how these calls play out. Until then, trade safe.